Hi, this is Steve Roy, author of the Killer Stand Up online course, and I'm here today with expert comedian John Branyan. And he's totally thrilled to be here. Can you tell?
Well, I'm just thrilled to have the technology working.
Oh,
That's
yeah, I love that. So let's just get right down to business. John, you've been doing this for like over 2 decades now, the
yeah.
whole stand up comedy thing. Talk a little bit about how you got started, what got you started, where you got started, and give a little progression about, where you've gone in your stand-up comedy adventures.
Uh, okay. I got started in the early '90s. 1990 was my very first open mic, and I went down just because I've always loved stand up. I've always loved watching it, and from the time I was a little kid. So I decided I wanted to try it, and I was just going to get it out of my system. I'd never expected to be any good at it, and I figured that they would probably, at worst, or at the least, boo me, and at the worst, so down and did my little set. Had 3 minutes, and I think I was funny for like 30 seconds. And afterwards, the guy that was running the open mic said, "Yeah, if that was your first time, you should come back because you were decent." And I just fell in love with the whole open mic scene. The whole camaraderie of it, and getting in and working on material and watching each other's sets. And
Now, where did
you know,
where was this at? What town, city, state?
Indianapolis, Indiana. Yeah, there were two clubs in Indianapolis that were owned by the same couple. Um, Chick and Patty Perrin were their names, and they were really nice to me. They loved everything about comedy. They loved they loved the craft, they loved the comics, they loved the audience, and so they were just very passionate about it. And they were fussy about who was on stage. Even the opening act was not considered a throwaway act in their club. So if you were going to be on stage, you had to be you had to be good even to open. And so I was back and forth doing open mics for 2.5 or 3 years before they finally said, "Okay, we think you're good enough that you can have a week." Um, and so they gave me a paid week, and I emceed for that week. And then after that, um, Patty booked all of the opening acts, and she was always good about making sure I had at least a week every single month, which at that time was 9 shows, 9 shows a week, back to back.
Did you get paid for that?
Yeah,
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
yeah, and I got good because I had all of that time on stage in front of all of those different audiences. You work the um, all week long. The Thursday night show was bad, and then Friday and Saturday was decent, and then of course the late show on Saturday is always hell. And oh,
Right, right.
you get good in front of all those different types of audiences, and working out material. And I figured out what worked and what didn't work, and um,
So, how did you progress from that portion of your stand-up comedy career to where you are now? Just a brief overview before we get into the questions.
um, to where I am now doing. Uh, I don't work clubs hardly at all anymore.
Right, right, but you progressed over a period of time. I mean, if you can just give a brief synopsis of, you went from this open mic scene to getting paid gigs in the comedy club
Yeah.
um, scene to where did you go from there?
Well, from the comedy club scene, I had a guy that contacted me out in San Diego, who was Mark Anderson, actually, who was
Oh, the improv guy.
co-prof. Yeah, Mark called me up and said he was looking for. He'd seen a demo tape that I sent him, a horrible demo tape, the worst demo tape that's ever been sent in the history of comedy, and it was really horrible. But he said that despite the quality, it seemed funny, and so he wanted me to go out to the Improv in Tempe and do a week out there, and he was basically checking to see if I had enough material that they could build a one-man show around it.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I went from working as a mostly feature in the clubs to having a one-man show that Mark produced, and we toured that around for close to 3 years. San Diego and Washington D.C. and Tulsa, Oklahoma, Dallas, Texas. We went all over the place and did this in theaters, and that was a different experience, because then I was the show.
Right, right.
My stuff, and it was a little different from stand up too, in that it became kind of scripted. The material was basically the same every single night, and I would just step through it, versus stand up, which is a little more of a free fall. You kind of get up and you have material, but you make adjustments as you go depending on how the audience is reacting.
Sure, sure.
But that again was experience, because we ended up in Branson, Missouri, which is a great place to go to shrivel up and die and have your soul sucked out. I had Branson is real competitive. There's 130 some shows every single day in Branson, and everybody's jockeying for ticket sales. And so we had virtually nobody in our shows, night after night after night after night. I was there for 8 weeks, and the average attendance was 6 in the audience.
Well, Branson is like Las Vegas without the gambling.
It's like Las Vegas without the fun, right?
Without the fun.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to present day.
Yeah.
You're now working. You've been working as a full-time comedian for how long?
Since 2002. 2001 was when I went in and told my boss that I loved my job and I love my boss. We still have lunch together, but I said the calls were coming in, and the dates were getting further and further out, to where it was just harder to come. I couldn't fly in home on Sunday and hit a time clock on Monday. There was just I couldn't do it. So
right. That's a great position to be in, and a lot of people would love to be in that position.
And that's what I tell young comics. I get this question a lot. Is like, how do you know when it's time to go full time? If you are trying to raise a family, I had 2 kids at the time, 3 kids basically at the time, and then we added another one later. But if you've got a family to take care of, man, you need to hang on to your day job and that regular paycheck until they pry it, out of your hands. And I did. I had a day job the whole time that I was featuring and doing this comedy thing. But the calls were coming in, and if you're good, then people notice, and you get opportunities. And so I would take the opportunities that I could and still work the day job. And eventually it got to the point where I just couldn't. I couldn't do it.
So it basically worked like this: is once the comedy opportunities outweighed the day job income, that's when you made the transition.
Right. I was making more money in comedy than I was at my day job. And so that was when it was time to go, okay, I need to transition out of this.
Right.